All right.
Awesome. I could go on video for a short second here. So my name is Sarah Fisher. I'm on the board of the YMCA at the Athenaeum, and we're one of the co-hosts of the Lunch and Learn series that we have here. So welcome everybody to our August Lunch and Learn. The Y at the Athenaeum and Ursay Family YMCA downtown are both open and ready to see folks. So hopefully you guys are getting out into the community and working out and staying healthy. BGI at the City Market is open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4. They're closed on Sundays and Mondays, but the other BGI locations are open for your patronage. And wanted to put a shout out for some upcoming lunch and learns that we have. So September and October are last two. September, we have encouraging diversity on bikes. So that's going to be another panel discussion. And then October 14th is going to be tips for riding in the cold and dark, which I will definitely not be participating in that one because I don't like riding in the cold and dark. But they will definitely give tips on how to do that safely and to actually stay warm while doing it. So I hope you guys can put September 9th and October 14th on your calendars. And since Damon is not going to be able to participate today, he had an emergency come up. So I will pass it over to Connie, who will talk about some of the advocacy things that she has going on, and then we can switch it over. I see Danielle showed up, so yay.
Let's see. Okay, so for those of you who do not know me, I am Connie Zabo Schmucker. I'm Advocacy Director at Bicycle Garage Indy, which is a local bicycle retailer. And I work on programs and projects to get more people on bikes. Some of the things that we've been doing as a advocacy leader in the bike retail world is we've been having challenges on Ride Spot. So we've had some July and June challenges. We're in the middle of August, so we've got some August challenges. So Ride Spot is an app, and we've got some incentives for people to do for these different ride challenges. For July, we actually partnered with Active People Healthy Indy folks from the Marion County Health Department, and they've provided some of the prizes or incentives for that. And so we had quite a few people participate in the 100 miles and the 250-mile challenges for July. For August, we've got some specific ride challenges, Bike to the Fair. So between now and the 22nd of August, and we encourage people to ride your bike to the fair. There's secure staffed bike parking along the Monon that's staffed by Pedal and Park and CIBA. So, check that out. We've got we extended Bike to the Market and Park to Park challenges from July to encourage people to ride their bikes to farmers markets, and also to explore the full Fall Creek Trail, which goes from Fort Harrison State Park all the way to close to Riverside. So we've got a route on that's an out and back. That one's a little longer challenge. So that one's 30 miles, so 30-mile round trip. So the other challenges that we've got are frequency. So ride 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, or 20 times, join each one of those challenges. And we're working on some cool incentives for that. So that's what we've been doing. Another thing that I do that I started back up doing at the end of May are bike riding lessons, teaching kids and adults how to ride a bike for the first time. And so I'm creating new bike riders. And I have probably taught more than 50 people, young and adult, youth and adults, how to ride a bike this year. So that's pretty exciting. The other thing that we're involved with is the nickel plate trail in Indy. So there is now a newly formed Friends of the Nickel Plate, and Bicycle Garage Indies through me is going to be more actively involved with hopefully seeing that trail to come to fruition. There was some good news in the city county council meeting this week with regards to potential funding for trails and greenways, as well as in Indy parks. So the proposed budget has additional funds for both of those, which is very exciting. The budget will be passed in October, so we're following that because the nickel plate trail and other greenways trails will, this proposed funding will have a big impact on that. And then lastly, I'm just looking, at the federal level, at the transportation bills that are going through at the federal level. And there are a lot of really good things for bicycling. So if you're interested in that, League of American Bicyclists and People for Bikes have great resources and blogs about what's going on with that and how it impacts potential for bicycling. So those are all, I'm very optimistic about a lot of those different things that are happening. We're also a big supporter of mountain biking, and the NICA, National Interscholastic Cycling Association, has an Indiana Interscholastic League here, cycling league in Indiana, and their first races for 2021 season are, I think, in the 23rd and 24th weekend. So they've got a series of 4 races, and they have over 180 kids already on 10 different teams statewide, just getting kids out bicycling and out in nature, and out riding their mountain bikes in a competitive way as well. So that's exciting to see so many kids getting involved, and the teams have just mushroomed, and so that's exciting to learn as well. So I think those are some of the things I'm working on, and some of the things I'm excited about with bicycling in the community. There's the other thing that I do is host Spotlight on Bicycling, and we have recordings of all the different programs that we've had so far. And last month highlighted some groups that primarily focus on Black women and men getting out bicycling. And so there's Bikes United in Indy. They're having weekly rides on Wednesdays and Sundays usually, and Black Girls Do Bike. Facebook page has a lot of their rides up on their Facebook page. And then there's Major Taylor Cycling Club that also is having several rides. So if you get a chance, you can check out that recording, find out more about those groups. But there's a lot of bicycling going on, and I think Andy just joined us. He can tell us what Bike Indianapolis is doing with community rides when he speaks about that. So I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Thanks so much, Connie. We have Danielle here from Bike Indiana, or Bicycle Indiana. Sorry, Danielle. And so if you want to talk about things going on, in the state of Indiana, as far as biking and community outreach, that kind of stuff, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I'm Danielle Frey. I'm the communications director for Bicycle Indiana. So we focus on making bike riding safer throughout the state. We do that through legislative work, through education, sorry, I got distracted by the chat. So one of the things we've been focusing on this year, we got a grant from the CIBA Foundation to translate all of our education materials into Spanish and Burmese. So all our coloring books and we have a brochure for kids safe riding and an adult safe riding brochure. And our law cards will be translated into Burmese and Spanish. And that grant also helped us change how our law cards are going to be. Before, it was just straight code, Indiana state codes that related to bicycling. And it was just, it's hard to digest and understand. So we have simplified those so that it's in more of a everyday language kind of thing with where to find the actual code. So hopefully those will be translated and printed by the end of this year so that those could be distributed and we can have a wider reach than what we've been reaching with just our English versions of those items as well. So a lot of times we get requests for events like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, different events for these to have these education materials. So with what we're hoping to do with some of the translations is to, instead of waiting for requests for those, is to hopefully go out into the communities throughout the state where some of those items might be needed with those languages. Another new program that we are rolling out at Fort Wayne Open Streets at the end of this month is a portable traffic garden. So a traffic garden, in case you're not familiar, is kind of a small scale streetscape for kids to kind of go through and learn about the different road signage and how to navigate through that safely. So our kit is, we're hoping to kind of test it out at the Fort Wayne Open Streets, and it's something we're putting together to hopefully take around the state to different events. Eventually, we'd like to talk to some school districts and roll it out and maybe have some events with those leading up to Bike to School Day. But our kit will involve stencils to chalk in like crosswalks in the street lines. We're having signs printed. In the moment, we're hoping to have like a little side area where kids can kind of draw their own like street map and how they would navigate through those. At this point, it's still kind of an experiment. We consulted with Fanula from Discover Traffic Gardens about it, and she said that there can be logistical issues with having a portable kit. And so we're trying to combat those issues and make this a thing that we can take across the state. Because I think not only is it a great way for kids to learn how streets are set up now, but it's a great way for us as adults to learn how they think streets should be set up. Those are the main things we have going on at the moment.
Hey Danielle, can you
Yeah.
describe what an open streets is?
Yeah, so an open streets is an event where a certain area of streetway is closed off, and so it's all open to pedestrians. It's kind of a all-day party in the streets. So there's different events going on throughout the couple blocks or whatever, however long it is. I know at the Fort Wayne Open Streets, they also have a BMX show. And the only reason I know that is because Bicycle Indiana sponsors that BMX show. So there's different events throughout it, and the streets are closed off to cars. So it's just taking over the streets and getting to use them for people and celebrating together.
Is it like 1 block, or is it like a mile, or what are we talking about?
I am not too sure on the Fort Wayne Open Streets, but it's usually a couple blocks from. I haven't been to the Fort Wayne Open Streets before, but I know the space we have designated for our traffic garden is a pretty large area. So I think it's probably at least a mile of area, but I really don't know how much they have planned.
Okay. And I don't think you mentioned this, but one of the things that you guys did, I think it was 2 years ago, is you guys lobbied really hard for the 3-foot passing law, right?
Yes. So the 3-foot passing law, we had been lobbying for that for probably about 10 years. And I think it was 2018, I think it went through. So it became law in 2019. I'm pretty sure. I might be getting those dates wrong.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and so that got wrapped up into the e-bike bill and was really how it passed this time. So it was a bill classifying the different types of e-bikes and what's allowed where, wrapped up the 3-foot passing law. So it is now state law that you must give bicycle riders 3 feet of space when passing.
Awesome. Thanks for your advocacy for getting that done.
Oh, and that also allows for crossing a double yellow when safe to do so.
Cool. As we're going through this, hopefully everybody feels comfortable. If you have any questions for any of the speakers, you could unmute yourself and ask questions as we go, or you could throw them in the chat and we'll ask the questions, kind of going through that as well. So Andy, I see that you've joined us, so welcome. And I guess, do you want to let folks know kind of what's going on with Bike Indianapolis and what you guys are out there doing for community support? You're on mute.
Am I still muted?
You're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
You can hear me. Okay. My apologies all. I'm Andy Gremos. I'm the president of the board for Bike Indianapolis. David Richards is our executive director, and we also have Silva Zhang, and who's our membership director, and we have somebody who's helping us with social media as well. So we're a growing crew to really reach out and get involved with the community on different projects. Our key areas are advocacy, educate, and ride. So in the advocacy area, we help infrastructure. We're spending our time now really trying to help getting better signage up places. So be looking for that in the future. In the area of educate, we focus on both rider education, getting ourselves as cyclists up to speed and understanding things such as the 3-foot passing rule, and drivers and getting them up to speed and educating them on such things as the 3-foot passing rule. We have different classes that Damon leads in that arena. And then thirdly, ride. So that's an area to talk about today, is getting out in the community and getting involved with different types of rides. Some recent things that we've done, we had a bike bingo program that was back in July. So that was a fun thing for us to do and get people involved with cycling. We also had the Midsummer Nights ride, which was leading bike trains to Midsummer Night's Dream at Riverside Park. I had the fortune of leading the Saturday night ride. That was a blast. Would strongly encourage, when we get a chance to do more of those, for folks to get involved with that. We also have a program that we're working on with Commuter Connect, and we're trying to match folks that may have some reservations about trying to get out there and riding alone, may not want to ride with a big group, understandably, but would match them with somebody who could ride with them and educate them on riding, and just be a good supportive bike buddy. So that's something that we're working on. We also are looking to get community rides going. There's been a few groups that we've been engaged with, and have gone out and showed them routes and ridden with them, with the intent of them having their own leaders and moving their own programs forward. So we've had some success with that, and looking forward to have more success with that. I would encourage all to visit either our website or follow us on social media. That's an area we're really getting more and more involved with. I'm trying to share screen. Don't know if I am, but if I am sharing screen, I'm showing my events calendar at Bike Indianapolis's website. And here you can go and find out not just about rides that we're leading or been involved with, but with other things that are going on, such as rides by Black Girls Do Bike. Damon also leads on Sunday mornings the Major Taylor Cycling Club rides. So that's something that they start at different places, but they ride 15, 20 miles. We have some of the other rides that are going on, such as the Chapel Hill Cyclers in near community. So there's a variety of different rides that we may or may not be leading, but this is an area that you can come to at least learn about what's going on. That's one of the things that we want to do is make sure that folks are aware of all the different great community rides that are going on, and can get involved.
Yeah, I don't see your screen, but if after you're done speaking, you could copy and paste it into the chat.
Okay, sorry. I think that's the main thing that I wanted to share with folks, and would be happy to answer questions or talk more about anything we've chatted about so far.
No, and I volunteered through Bike Indianapolis for the Bike to the 500, and that was really fun to see everybody there gearing up and getting ready for that ride. So that was pretty awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess, are there any other people that are on the call that may be involved in other groups that are doing biking in the community, or have some bike advocacy components to your work? Okay. Anybody have any questions for any of the panelists, Danielle, Connie, or Andy, about the different things that their groups are doing, or do you have concerns, that you feel should be brought up to anybody that, we could talk about and, they could bring up to their groups?
Hi, I'm Priscilla, and I have a question. I just ride by myself up and down the Monon, but also on Nextdoor, I have been noticing a lot of comments on use of the Monon Trail by cyclists, and more recently one on bicycling in roundabouts and who's got the right of way, who does what. And I wondered if any of you that work in bike education have any thoughts on that, or if there's a resource for how to manage all the Carmel roundabouts if you're on a bike.
That's a great question. Andy or Connie, Danielle?
I was going to say, I really wish Damon was here. I would I would think that is a topic that would be brought up in both our rider education and driver education programs that we have. And it's a very good question because that tends to get, well, I mean, even just drivers seem to be confused about the right of ways and the roundabouts, but defensive driving, riding, or how do we all work together, I think are topics that Damon would talk about during those programs.
I mean, when it all comes down to when you're biking in a traffic lane, you're considered a vehicle on the road, right? So you would still operate in a roundabout as if you were a car. So waiting until it's, your turn to go and then, going through the roundabout, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Priscilla, you're muted.
I think so, but on Nextdoor, not many people seem to know that. They seem to think that cyclists are pedestrians or they should be on the sidewalk. I don't know. Anyway, it seems to me it's at least in Carmel, it's an area that needs a little education. And then of course, there's always who has the right of way on the Monon Trail. It's kind of a constant. There's a post on that a week. I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
very counterintuitive that when you come to a crosswalk as a pedestrian or anything that you should on the crosswalk that you still have to stop. And I guess people are slowly adapting to that, but it seems to be a constant source of friction, shall we say, between cyclists and riders.
Yeah, and I think the crosswalks
Yeah.
for the Monon, the dealio there is if you are in the crosswalk and a car is coming or whatever, then they have to stop. But if you're not, then the car has the right of way to continue on, right?
Right, except most cars do stop for you and you have to wave them on,
Yeah, and that gets so confusing.
Right.
And,
Right.
and some
There's
people
only
don't stop.
One
and-
direction stops.
Right, exactly. So if you're a cyclist and somebody stops for you, you got to look the other direction and make sure that everybody's stopped, or you have to wave the people on until it's clear. But it seems to be, I hate to see friction between cyclists and drivers or cyclists and pedestrians, because cycling is something that should make everybody's life better, not worse and not stressful. So I guess I don't know what the answer is, but anything that gives more education is good, I think.
Yeah, I think
Agreed.
what Andy was talking about, the bicycle friendly driver program, would be very helpful for at least, city staff, so they understand, the needs of bicyclists when drivers are encountering them, as well as, when I have gone up on my bike and ridden a roundabout, I am in the lane and I take the lane. It's not very easy to keep on the paths that go around the roundabouts and do an immediate right turn or immediate turn into the crosswalk if you were going to keep on the multi-use paths that are on the side, to have to get on and off the curb several times before you get to the other side, as well as make those sharp turns. It's not that easy. It's much easier to just get in the lane and go around the roundabout, taking your lane. But it also depends on how much traffic there is and whether you can get across the area that you're trying to get across. As far as being on, I spend a lot of my time bicycling on Fall Creek Trail. And Fall Creek Trail is not nearly as wide as the Monon. It's about half the width. And so you're always encountering, and it's very windy. It's very curved. It's got lots of curves in it. So you're always encountering, bicyclists are always encountering other bicyclists and other pedestrians. And the whole thing is just slow down and, communicate The bicyclist needs to communicate what they're doing, it's a little, I don't think it's very accurate that pedestrians should have to yield to bicyclists 100% of the time, because if you've got 3 people walking side by side on a trail and they're taking up the entire trail, and me as a bicyclist, I'm supposed to yield to them, how do I yield to them? There's no space. So, people need to be aware of people that are behind them, people that are in front of them, and make it so everyone can get along in that same space.
Common
But
decency, huh?
I think you said it well, though, Connie. It's all about communications,
yeah,
right? So,
communication. I mean, you have to slow down, and you have to, if I, as a bicyclist, am coming upon people who are walking and their backs are to me, I have to say something, because they're not going to know. We're fairly quiet unless you say something. And I always say bike back, because sometimes it might be easier for them to go to the left side or the right side of the trail, depending on where they are on the trail. If their dog is on the left side and they're on the right side, I'd rather them go to where their dog is rather than pull their dog across the trail. I actually, last couple of weeks, I was on the trail, and I just happened to see this flash of a dog go to the left of the side of the trail as I was coming down a hill. And if I hadn't seen that, I would not have known that there was a leash across the entire trail. So I had to really slow down, and the person pulled their dog back over instead of going to where the dog was, but they did get out of the way as I was coming down the hill. But yeah, you have to communicate and let people know. And you can communicate friendly too. Like I'll say, bike back on your left, good afternoon, good morning, have a great day. You can be, we say hi to every single person that we see on the trail. We say bike up when we're encountering people that are facing us, because sometimes they're not looking up and they're not really paying attention. And if they're side by side on Fall Creek Trail, if you have 2 people side by side, a bicyclist can't pass it. It's that narrow. So it's really important for everybody to communicate and know, and for the bicyclists to slow down before they're encountering people as well. Because you don't necessarily know where people are going to head once you say that you're behind them. That's why I say bike back instead of on your left, because if I say on your left, they hear left and they go to the left.
Yeah,
Somehow.
speaking of communication, I got a question.
Yeah.
So I sent Connie this in the chat, but it seems to me that communication with DPW, who is my understanding maintains these trails, is difficult and lacking. And it would be kind of nice if we had a DPW rep to some of these types of meetings where we're talking about community biking, so they can hear firsthand some of the discussion. But, and I'm all for their trail building. I love it, but I always am worried about their commitment to maintaining what they build. And every year, the onus is on the users of the trail to prune it. And personally, I'm opposed to that. It shouldn't be my responsibility to clear that trail, and it just gets out of control. And and the Mayor's Action Center is not set up to easily submit an request on the trail because they're set up for city streets. So I guess 2 points. One, what is DPW doing to convince us as a bike community that they are appropriately budgeting for maintenance of the existing trails and maintaining those? 2, what is DPW doing to convince us that they are committed to maintaining the signage of those trails? We still have old signs up at 38th Street directing people across the 38th Street Bridge because nobody bothered to take the old signage down. and put up new signage to direct them to cross the intersection along Fall Creek Parkway. So that's, I guess, my comments for today is I'd like to see some kind of ease of use in contacting the city about these issues, because it's very difficult to contact them.
And one of the things that the Mayor's Advisory Council has set up is a spreadsheet to track those. Because you're right, the Mayor's Action Project or Mayor's Action Center is not set up for trail. You know, you can point to something, but it doesn't easily show up in their thing. So I think I'm the only one who's actually submitted things on this other form that goes to Jamie McPherson and some other folks within DPW. Jamie McPherson is the bike ped coordinator.
So what is this form? How do you access it?
Right now, it's a secret form.
Okay,
But,
understand.
yeah.
So we tell you all our complaints. Is that it, Connie? We just give them all.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean,
I got it.
I can probably share it. I don't think there's that much activity on it. I think I'm the only one who has put anything in it so far. But you know, I don't know, Danielle, do you think, is that shareable?
I
for
don't know
public?
that it is shareable to the public at this point, but hi, I'm also the chair for the Indianapolis Mayor's Bicycle Advisory Council, where we do work closely with DPW on things, including, you know, working on a process to more easily submit requests for maintaining bike infrastructure. I would also add that not all of these trails are in the jurisdiction of DPW. Some of them belong to Indy parks. But with our spreadsheet, if you want to send an email to myself or Connie or the both of us, we can make sure it gets added to that spreadsheet. I know DPW has talked about how they can use, you know, if you've got your cell phone and you're at the location, that'll use your, you know, GPS location to help report that. But I myself have still found that really difficult to report things about bike lanes and trails. So I completely understand that struggle. So if you want to send an email to one of us, we'll make sure those get reported to DPW in our monthly meetings and via that spreadsheet that we have until there is some public access to reporting these types of issues. It's something that we've been discussing in the last couple of months at our meetings, figuring out a system for DPW to be able to filter through bike requests like that.
All right, thank you, Danielle. Quick follow-up question to you then, since you're on the advisory council or committee. Do they have discussions regarding maintenance budgets and contracts and what the scope of the maintenance along the trail should be? And I'm assuming the answer is no.
I have not been privy to any maintenance budget discussions. I'm sure it's discussed at least in the initial development of the project. Maintenance of roadways and stuff is definitely part of a project scope. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure to what extent that's discussed or how that's reviewed to see if it's needed. It's definitely something we can ask about. I don't know what kind of response we'd get.
I can give you, here's a suggestion you can pass along.
Sure.
So clearly, when the trails pass near a park area,
Mhm.
there clearly are mowing contractors that mow along the sides of the trail. It seems to me that the logical thing to do is to modify those contracts to include pruning invasive trees, bushes, poison ivy that grows along the trail, and particularly through these two 2x6 wooded fences that they put up for guarding, and crap just grows through them and nobody seems to care. And so modifying a existing contract to include that scope of work would seem to be a simple solution to this issue.
I think that's a great idea. And again, if you have examples of specific locations, just
Oh, you would
send
have,
them on to us.
All
that's
along
quite
the
onerous.
trail.
I
All
can film
along-
the whole length of the
know.
trail.
I know. That's why I'm saying if you have specific spots, and pictures always help as well. So as you come across them, if you snap a picture with the location and send them on, that is definitely helpful information for people to at the city to track down.
Yeah, but I just think if they took a contract approach and said, okay, we need this done, put it in a contract, and then they don't have to field me complaining 20 times a year about pruning a tree.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
done once a month. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and the other thing, your comment about signage, I would have expected that when they spent the money that they did to create that new connection on between 38th and 39th for Fall Creek Trail, that the signage would have been part of that project. And obviously it hasn't been. I've taken people on that in the last couple of months, and they're like, I never knew this was here, you know, and they ride this area. So people don't, you know, if you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to improve the trail connection and you don't direct people to it, you just wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars. People are finding it, sort of. They also didn't really do a good connection between Fall Creek Trail to the bridge and across. It doesn't look like there's any kind of connection there. So you can see the old connection. That's what people do. But I would have expected that new signage would have been part of that project.
Any other questions or thoughts or gripes from people that, you know, you have some really good people here on the phone that could take an ear and let others know?
I have one more question, and I probably should know this, but I didn't get my driver's license in Indiana. I think I got that about 1 million years ago. And I don't really know if it discusses trails and bikes and the responsibilities of bikers versus pedestrians versus cars. Does anybody know what is included right now in the training for driver's ed?
Yeah, so Danielle might be able to answer that. There had been, like, if you had to take a test,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to be at least one question that gets there's a series of questions, but one question gets rotated in there about bicycling in the driver's test.
I was just curious because I'm thinking that the people that I see in Carmel that are zooming, that are the cars that are not behaving appropriately at the Monon, and also many of the bikers who are not, and the bikers that zip by little old ladies like me really fast without anticipating that I may not go totally in a straight line and make no audible noise. I'm wondering, they're not going to attend a special session on, they're not going to take a Saturday, several hours in a Saturday, and go to something about education for bikers and for drivers. So I'm just curious how that will ever work. Just a thought.
Yeah, Bicycle Indiana has been, I guess it's been an ongoing conversation over the years, trying to get more information added about bicycle safety in driver's manual, as well as asking them to include more questions on the test related to bicycling. Sorry. At this point, we haven't really made any forward progress on getting any more of that information added. We were hoping with the addition of the 3-foot safe passing law that would encourage more information to be put out there. And I'm hoping Andy could maybe speak a little bit too about the Bike Indianapolis driver, safe driver education as a diversion program, because I feel like that relates to this conversation a little bit as well. Andy, are you able to, I know you talked about educating drivers before, but are you able to elaborate on the diversion program at all?
I wish Damon was here. He could really elaborate on it. I know it is a program where drivers who've gotten into some trouble, they can take this class as, you know, in lieu of other options open to them to, you know, take care of points on their license. And so that's something that Damon is leading. He's and we've had some folks that have been participating in that. So, you know, we've had some success with that. I share the, you know, the concern thought that folks have is that, you know, unless it's that type of situation, how do we get other driver education for other drivers? And we're certainly, you know, open to thoughts and ideas on that. But that, you know, what's the carrot to have somebody come and learn about how to ride safe, you know, drive safely with cyclists outside of something like that?
Andy, I think you really touched on something there about how do we reach drivers who aren't necessarily forced to seek out some sort of safer driving course. You know, and I think that relates to a question Roy put in the chat about bike boxes not being understood by drivers, but how can we as advocates work to better reach drivers who are not necessarily connected to driving around, you know, safe driving skills around bicycle riders? How can we work to better connect those things to get our messages across? That would be, you know, if we could solve that, that would make a huge difference in our world. So if you have any suggestions, I'm sure all of us here would love to hear them.
Yes, please.
Great. Any other questions or comments, thoughts? This has been a great discussion and great topics being brought up, everyone. Well, hearing nothing, I think we may be done for the day. So I encourage everybody, like I mentioned at the top of the hour, September 9th is our next Lunch and Learn, which is encouraging diversity on bikes. So that's going to be another panel discussion led by Connie. So I encourage everybody to put that on your calendar, sign up on Eventbrite, and we will talk to you next month.
I do have another quick question.
Oh, yeah.
So the Fall Creek extension that was built last summer, connecting to Birdsall, the big dig impingement on the trail, does anybody know when that's going to be done, finished, complete? So we don't have to jump back out on the street.
I do not. I just rode that yesterday, the construction. It's probably going to be another year. But Jamie McPherson would have more details about that, or would be able to find out, either him or Andre Denman. So if you want to put that in the chat, then that would be a trigger to send that on to Jamie, see if he could give us a timeline for it, or Damon might be able to find out as well. There is supposed to be an extension of Fall Creek Trail that's going to go south from Birdsall Parkway to 10th Street, I think, and connect into the B&O Trail. And that's supposed to happen next year by the end of 2022. So the the sewer project, that, that's in its own timeline. But hopefully that would be done so you could actually connect to this other part that's going to finish Fall Creek Trail to the south and provide even more connectivity. But at this point, yeah, it's super unfortunate because they just they just added that new section, and the sewer project is right smack in the middle of it. Because it connects to Birdsville Parkway where there is a bike lane, and also north to the Central Canal towpath ends right there. So there's a lot of connectivity once that sewer project is done.
Great. Anything else? I'll do it going once, going twice. Okie dokie. Well, thank you all for joining today, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Oh, fuck me.